Hello, welcome to the Daily News Ukraine channel. Today is February 22nd and our daily review of news about Ukraine. More than 350,000 soldiers of the Russian Federation are involved in the war against Ukraine. Commander of the Joint Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Lieutenant General Serhiy Nayev, said this in an interview with Ukrinform. The number of the enemy involved in military operations on the territory of Ukraine and its surroundings is slightly more than 350,000 people, he said. Nayev also spoke about the numbers of Russian and Belarusian military personnel currently stationed on the territory of the Republic of Belarus. Read also, Russian military death toll in Ukraine climbs to 145,060. The armed forces of the Republic of Belarus are currently in Belarus. Their total number is 65,000, including 4,000 in the areas bordering Ukraine. In addition, the Russian 6th Division with the total number of 10,500 personnel is located at the Belarusian training grounds. They conduct their exercises there, said the Lieutenant General. At the same time, the commander of the joint forces assured that there is a corresponding reaction to any increase in the number of enemy troops in the northern direction. When Russian troops, increase several times, then we will also increase the number of our troops, Nayev emphasized. As reported, the defense forces of Ukraine repelled enemy attacks in the areas of Kuzymivka and Dybrova in Luhansk region, Fedorivka, Yahidny, Berkivka, Bakhmut and Kurdyamivka in Donetsk region. Law enforcers have already identified 91 Russian soldiers involved in crimes committed in Bucha, Kyiv region. Prosecutor General Andrei Kostin stated this while visiting Bucha together with members of the U.S. Congress Michael McCaul, Darrell Issa, Keith Self, Jake Elzy, and Max Miller, Ukrinform reports with reference to the Prosecutor General's office. According to Kostin, during the occupation, the Russian army committed more than 9,000 war crimes in the Bucha district, killing more than 1,700 civilians. Read also, Kostin, Maloney visit Bucha. The members of the U.S. Congress visited the places of mass crimes and met with those who survived the crimes of the Russians. After the liberation, we discovered mass burial sites with the mutilated bodies of men, women, and children. Torture, murder, sexual violence. This is the true face of the Russian world and the regime of the Russian Federation, which is based on complete contempt for the principles of human rights and humanitarian law, Kostin stated. 91 military personnel of the Russian Federation involved in these crimes have been identified. Work is ongoing to bring all those involved to justice, said the Prosecutor General. As reported by Ukrinform, in early April 2022, Irpin, Bucha, Hostomel and the entire Kyiv region were liberated from the Russian forces. Mass murders of civilians by invaders were recorded in liberated cities and villages. The government of Finland allocates another €5 million to the World Food Programme, WFP, to support the implementation of the Black Sea Grain Initiative. The Ministry for Foreign Affairs of Finland said this in a statement, Ukrinform reports. Through WFP, Finland is supporting both Ukraine and the countries affected by the food crisis. Ukraine will get income it needs and the countries suffering from grain shortage and high prices will get much-needed grain, said Minister for Development Cooperation and Foreign Trade Vil Skanari. Read also, 10 grain ships leave Ukrainian seaports in last 2 days. The grain shipments also enable WFP to deliver humanitarian assistance to countries worst affected by the food crisis. With Finland's support, WFP is buying Ukrainian grain, which it grinds, clears through customs and delivers to the Horn of Africa, among other regions. It is noted that implementing the Black Sea Grain Initiative will also stabilize global food prices. Finland supported the implementation of the Black Sea Grain Initiative already last year by financing grain shipments from Ukraine to Somalia. As reported by Ukrinform, at a meeting in Istanbul on November 17, 2022, Ukraine, the United Nations and Turkey agreed to extend the Black Sea Grain Initiative for another 120 days. The initiative was launched on July 22, 2022, and the first vessel with Ukrainian grain left the port of Odessa on August 1. Photo, AliExpress.com. Following a series of explosions in temporary captured Mariupol, enemy aircraft were recorded in the sky over the city. The Mariupol City Council wrote about this on Telegram and shared respective videos, Ukrinform reports. Read also, enemy attacks Kharkiv with S-300 missiles. 2 civilians injured. As earlier reported, explosions rocked the city of Mariupol late in the evening of February 21. It was confirmed that an enemy ammunition depot at the airport and an invaders base at the Ilich Iron and Steel Works plant were struck. On the morning of February 22, a powerful explosion rang out in Mariupol. Explosions were also recorded near the urban-type settlement of Talakivka in the city's Kalmiesky district. Enemy warehouses located on the territory of the seaport were struck. Photo, illustrative. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky has submitted to the Verkhovna Rada a draft resolution on approving the decision of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, NSDC, as of February 22 on the application of sectoral special economic and other restrictive measures, sanctions, against financial institutions of the Russian Federation. The relevant document was registered under number 9045, Ukrinform reports. The text of the draft resolution and accompanying documents are currently not published on the Parliament's website. However, it is noted that the draft resolution was received and transferred for consideration. As reported, on February 20, President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky signed Decree No. 82/2023 to put into effect the NSDC decision on sanctions against the Moscow Exchange and 333 Russian citizens, in particular, against the management of the largest Russian banks. Photo, President's Office. Since the beginning of February, Russian troops have started offensive actions in at least 4 or 5 directions in Ukraine, but they do not have strategic nature. After Russians, left Kherson, when they were forced to leave Kherson and the right bank of the Dnieper in general, they regrouped. It finally took 2 months. And indeed, from the beginning of February, offensive actions began. Yes, they don't have a strategic nature, but there are at least 4 or 5 directions where active hostilities have begun. These are in Luhansk, Donetsk, and Zaporizhia regions. Vadim Skibitskyi, deputy chief of the main Directorate of Intelligence of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, told AP in an interview. According to him, much will depend on how the coming months unfold and what success will be achieved, including by the Ukrainians. Read also, Russia wants to reach administrative borders of Donetsk, Luhansk regions by March 31, Ukraine's intelligence chief, because we also plan our military actions not for tomorrow, and not for the day after tomorrow, but for a certain period of time. When we consider the potential impact on Russia, primarily, it is the negative effect, first of all on the morale of their servicemen, Skibitskyi added. The so-called major offensive of Russian troops continues. The enemy aims to reach the administrative borders of Donetsk and Luhansk regions by the end of March. The major offensive of Russia, which they have as a goal, is already underway. But it has such quality that not everyone even sees it. Russians, have a strategic task, to reach the administrative borders of Donetsk and Luhansk regions by March 31, Chief of the Main Directorate of Intelligence of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine Kirilo Budanov told Forbes, Ukraine in an interview. At the same time, Budanov says that the Russians will not be able to do this. The reality is that they set themselves the goal of reaching the administrative borders of Donetsk and Luhansk regions by March 31. You can feel the difference, capturing Kiev in 3 days and reaching some borders someday, he said. As reported, Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine Alexei Danilev said that the Russian troops were not succeeding in the so-called major offensive in the east of Ukraine and were being repelled. Russian troops attacked Kharkiv. Residents of Kharkiv city and region, the occupiers attack again. Don't ignore the air raid alert. Stay in shelters. Ola Sinhubov, head of the Kharkiv Regional Military Administration, posted on Telegram. At least 4 explosions have been heard in the city, and Ukrinform correspondent reports. Serhiy Melnik, chief of the Kharkiv military garrison, wrote on Telegram that the Russian army struck Kharkiv with S-300 missiles around 10:30 on February 22. Later, Sinhubov informed that 2 people were injured in the Russian missile attack on Kharkiv. According to preliminary data, Kievsky district of Kharkiv city was struck. The occupiers target infrastructure objects. According to the Regional Center for Emergency Medical Assistance, 2 people were injured. They have minor injuries and now receive care, Sinhubov added. Kharkiv Mayor Ihor Terekov posted on Telegram that the enemy was targeting industrial facilities. The invaders tried to make a breakthrough near Kreminna but had no success. The enemy tried to make a breakthrough near Kreminna yesterday. A company of infantry and a company of tanks of the occupiers went forward. The battle was very difficult, our guys destroyed several Russian tanks. Their offensive was stifled. The situation there stabilized, head of the Luhansk Regional Military Administration Serhiy Haidai posted on Telegram. According to him, the invaders yesterday evacuated the killed and wounded in Svatov direction during an unsuccessful attempt to break through the day before, which resulted in significant enemy losses. As reported, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the Ukrainian troops repelled invaders' attacks near Kuzymivka and Dybrova in Luhansk region, Fedorivka, Yehidny, Berkivka, Bakhmut, and Kurdyamivka in Donetsk region over the past 24 hours. According to the UN Human Rights Office's monitoring mission in Ukraine, at least 8,006 civilians were killed and 13,287 civilians were injured over the past 12 months of Russia's full-scale aggression against Ukraine. These numbers, which we are publishing today, lay bare the loss and suffering inflicted on people since Russia's armed attack began on February 24 last year, suffering I saw for myself firsthand when I visited Ukraine in December. And our data are only the tip of the iceberg, UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk said. As noted, amid electricity and water shortages during the cold winter months, nearly 18 million people are in dire need of humanitarian assistance. Some 14 million people have been displaced from their homes. According to the monitoring mission data, at least 487 children were killed and 954 injured. It is underscored that some 90.3% of civilian casualties were caused by explosive weapons with wide area effects, including artillery shells, cruise and ballistic missiles, and airstrikes. As reported, 345 children are considered missing in Ukraine since the beginning of the full-scale war with the Russian Federation. Today we were talking about those news. More than 350,000 Russian soldiers involved in war against Ukraine. Nayev. War crimes in Bucha, 91 Russian soldiers already identified. Finland allocates another €5 million to support grain deal. Enemy aircraft recorded over Mariupol following explosions in city. Zelensky submits to Parliament draft resolution on sanctions against Russian financial institutions. Skibitskyi, Russia's new offensive doesn't have strategic nature. Russia wants to reach administrative borders of Donetsk, Luhansk regions by March 31, Ukraine's intelligence chief. Enemy attacks Kharkiv with S-300 missiles. 2 civilians injured. Haidai, invaders fail to make breakthrough near Kreminna. Our data are only tip of iceberg, UN says at least 8,000 civilians killed in war in Ukraine.